But the next morning, a silver Rolls-Royce glided up to his crumbling apartment building, and everything changed. What no one knew, those weren't just any babies. They were the heirs of one of the wealthiest men in America. Stay to the end, you won't believe how this young hero's life was transformed. It is the crack of dawn in a forgotten alley behind the rail station. The wind bites at exposed skin. Trash rustles against rusted walls and cracked pavement. A boy named Malik, just 13 years old, crouches low, barely shielded by his thin hoodie. His sneakers are soaked from the night's rain, and the chill cuts to the bone. Yet his arms are wrapped tightly around something warmer than the cold could ever be. 3 newborns, swaddled in white cloth, fragile and still. He whispers, "You are okay now. I got you." His voice trembles, but his hands do not. They are steady, protective, and determined. As he breathes out, his breath fogs in the early morning air. Behind him, the first light of day spills slowly into the alleyway, brushing against rooftops and silent bricks. The city sleeps on, unaware of the moment unfolding in its shadows. No one sees the boy in the alley. No one but the babies. Minutes earlier, Malik had followed a faint sound through the darkness, thinking it might be kittens. A thin, high cry kept pulling him toward the dumpsters. He had hesitated. The streets were not safe. But curiosity and something deeper pushed him forward. When he pulled back a damp cardboard box, what he found was not fur, but flesh. Pink faces, tiny fist, eyes tightly shut against the world. They were so small they could fit in the curve of his arms. 3 lives abandoned in the dark. His chest tightened. He had seen things in his 13 years, but this was something else. He looked around, but the alley was empty. No cameras, no footsteps, only the wind. He should have run for help. Maybe he still could. But his legs did not move. Instead, he scooped them up. They were cold. One whimpered. The smallest had stopped crying altogether. That was when fear shifted to action. He pressed them to his chest, trying to share what little warmth he had. The hoodie was useless against the morning cold, but he pulled it tighter around them anyway. He spoke softly. Words did not matter as much as tone. Reassurance, presence, hope. The sky began to pale. A distant train horn blew, and for a moment it felt like the world was coming back to life. Malik sat there with the newborns in his arms, trying to decide what to do next. He knew what adults would say: call someone, get help, wait for the police. But what if no one came in time? What if they were taken and separated? What if they ended up like so many others, lost in a system too big to care? So he sat with them, watched their little chests rise and fall, felt the soft weight of responsibility settle into his bones. He was only 13, but at that moment he felt much older. Footsteps echoed in the distance, sharp and heavy. Someone was coming. Malik stiffened. He was used to hiding, used to protecting what little was his. Now he would protect them too, even if he had to run, even if he had to lie. These 3 lives had been left for no one. Now they had him. He looked at their faces, barely visible in the early light. One opened its eyes, just for a second. Malik smiled. It was a small, tired smile, but it held everything: love, fear, purpose. Behind him, the city began to wake. Lights flickered on in faraway windows. A dog barked. Somewhere, breakfast sizzled in a pan. But in the alley behind the rail station, a boy named Malik held 3 babies close and whispered again, "You are okay now. I got you." Where are you watching from, and what would you have done? Comment below. Malik lives in a shelter tucked between 2 crumbling buildings on the east side of the city. It is not much, but it is home for now. He shares a room with his grandmother, Miss D, a retired schoolteacher whose soft voice and stern eyes still carry the weight of old chalkboards and lesson plans. She lost her pension to a predatory landlord who vanished after draining her savings. The world has not been kind, but she stands straight, holds her head high, and reminds Malik to do the same. Malik's mother disappeared 2 years ago. One morning she left for a job interview and never returned. There were rumors, whispers in the neighborhood, and phone calls that went nowhere. Malik stopped asking questions when he realized the answers only brought pain. His father is serving time upstate, locked behind bars for mistakes Malik barely understands. The boy carries these absences like invisible weights, but he does not let them slow him down. He owns one treasure, a battered notebook he guards like gold. In it, he draws superheroes. Some wear capes, others carry medical bags. All of them have powers he wishes he had, not to fly or disappear, but to heal, to protect, to arrive in time. Malek may be young, but his heart is old. He volunteers at the soup kitchen down the block, ladling broth and handing out bread rolls with a smile that hides his own hunger. He helps kids carry groceries up steep stairs, dodging broken steps and flickering lights. He never asks for payment, just a nod, maybe a thank you, and sometimes not even that. The world may take, but Malik keeps giving. He wants to be an EMT when he grows up. It is not just a job to him. It is a mission. If I can just get people to the hospital in time, maybe their stories do not have to end, he once said to Miss D. She had wiped a tear from her cheek and told him he was already saving people, just by being who he was. Evenings are his time to walk. He weaves through alleyways and forgotten streets with a large plastic bag for cans and a pocket full of dog biscuits. He checks on abandoned dogs, watches for injured strays, and leaves bits of food wherever he can. Some animals know him now. They peek from under fences and behind bins when they hear his voice. He speaks softly to them, names them, promises them they are not alone. There are days when the weight of everything catches up, when the shelter walls feel too close, when the silence from his mother feels too loud, when he wonders if trying is even worth it. But then he sees someone smile over a hot meal or a dog wag its tail at the sound of his footsteps. He remembers why he keeps moving. Miss D tells him he is the best parts of everyone who came before. She says he has his father's fire, his mother's heart, and her own stubborn will. He laughs when she says it, but deep down he hopes it is true. He wants to believe he came from strength, not just loss. The notebook always comes out before bed. By flashlight, Malik sketches more heroes. Sometimes they wear his hoodie. Sometimes they ride bikes with flashing red lights. In every drawing, they are brave. They show up. They save the day. Malik does not know what tomorrow holds. The city is rough and his path is uncertain, but he walks it with quiet courage. Because somewhere out there, someone might need help. Someone might need a hero. And Malik is ready. Have you ever had to grow up too fast? Share your story. The sky is still dark when Malik hears it. A faint sound carried on the wind, soft and unfamiliar. It is not the usual rustling of rats or the clink of bottles. It is higher, smaller, a cry. At first, he thinks it is an injured kitten, maybe one of the strays he checks on. He follows the sound through puddles and broken fences, stepping over splintered wood and dodging piles of garbage. The city smells sharp and wet, and his sneakers are already soaked through. Still, the noise pulls him forward. Behind a dumpster, half covered by a torn sheet of plastic, he finds a coat. It is thick and old, but neatly folded. 3 tiny bundles lie on top, tucked close together. The The cries are louder now, unmistakable. These are not kittens. These are babies, no more than a week old. Their faces are pink and scrunched, fists curled tight. One kicks lightly, another has stopped crying. Malik kneels beside them, heart pounding. The coat has initials embroidered in gold thread. He does not recognize them. The fabric is warm, but the babies are shivering. Whoever left them did so with care, but not enough to keep them safe. Malik glances around. No footsteps, no voices, just him and these 3 new lives, breathing against the cold morning air. "I am not leaving you here," he mutters. His voice cracks as he speaks. He unzips his hoodie and gently lifts each baby into the warmth of his chest, one by one. They barely weigh anything, and yet he feels the gravity of the moment press into his spine. He pulls the zipper up, clutching them close, shielding them from the wind. He stands and starts running. His legs are stiff from the cold, his breath sharp in his throat. 2 blocks, that is all. 2 blocks to the firehouse that stays open all night. He knows the way. He passes graffiti-covered walls and flickering streetlights, eyes fixed on the glowing red sign ahead. When he bursts through the doors of the firehouse, the heat nearly knocks him over. He staggers inside, gasping for breath, his teeth chattering. A firefighter turns from a desk, startled. "Babies," Malik says between gasps. "Someone left them. Please." The man steps forward fast, his face shifting from confusion to urgency. He calls out behind him, his voice commanding. More firefighters rush in. The babies are lifted carefully from Malik's arms. Warm blankets replace the hoodie. One firefighter checks for pulses, another radios for emergency response. Malik sinks to the floor, shaking from cold and adrenaline. The fire captain kneels beside him. "You did good, kid. Stay with me." Minutes later, the block is filled with flashing red and blue lights. Paramedics arrive with soft voices and quick hands. Neighbors gather, pulled from sleep by sirens and curiosity. Questions swirl in the air, but Malik cannot answer most of them. He just watches as the babies are carried into the ambulance, their cries now muffled by fleece and care. Someone offers him a blanket. Another tries to get his name. Malik only nods. He cannot stop thinking about how cold they were, how close it had been, how small they looked under that coat. He had never run so fast in his life, never held anything so fragile, never felt so responsible. As the ambulance doors close, he catches a final glimpse of the smallest one, the one who had stopped crying. Her eyes are open now, wide and unblinking. For a second, it feels like she is looking right at him. A firefighter places a hand on his shoulder. "You saved them, son. Whatever happens next, you remember that." Malik nods again, silent. His heart is still racing, but something in him settles. He had been walking that alley just like every other day, looking for scraps and strays. But that morning, he had found something else. He had found 3 lives that were not supposed to be alone, and he had done something about it. Would you have stopped to help? Let us talk about what you would do. The ambulance speeds through the early morning streets, lights cutting across fogged windows and empty intersections. At the hospital, nurses and doctors swarm around the 3 babies, their motions swift but gentle. Vitals are checked, fluids administered, warmers turned on. Each child is cleaned and swaddled in soft hospital blankets. Their heartbeats are steady. Their temperatures begin to rise. One lets out a loud cry. It is a good sign. They are stable. Meanwhile, Malik slips away before anyone thinks to stop him. He walks out of the firehouse unnoticed, turning down an alley and disappearing into the maze of side streets he knows so well. He wants no cameras, no questions, no spotlight. All that mattered was getting the babies somewhere safe. That part is done. But across the city, as the sun lifts above the skyline, chaos begins to spread. The story breaks within the hour. 3 missing infants recovered alive behind a downtown firehouse. Anonymous tip. No suspects, no arrests. But someone watching the news knows exactly who those babies are. William Langston stares at the television in disbelief. The tech billionaire is pale and shaking. His triplet sons vanished 6 days ago from his private estate in one of the most high-profile security breaches the state has ever seen. There were no demands, no notes, no clues beyond a shredded surveillance feed and one piece of evidence: a masked nanny captured on blurry footage running toward a waiting van. The entire country has been watching. Langston had poured millions into the search. He had offered a $1 million reward. He had not slept in days. Now, there they are. Alive. In a hospital crib. Law enforcement moves quickly. The footage from the firehouse is pulled. Witness statements collected. But Malik's face does not appear. No one caught his name. No one saw which direction he went. He had vanished into the city before the press even arrived. Detectives analyze the coat found with the babies. The gold initials match a member of Langston's staff who vanished the same night as the children. All evidence points to an inside job. Investigators believe the nanny may have acted alone at first, but someone must have helped her, or betrayed her. The trail goes cold outside a gas station where the van was last seen. Malik hears the news from a small TV inside the soup kitchen. The screen is cracked, but the message is clear. Those babies are the sons of William Langston, billionaire, founder of Langston Technologies. Malik stares at the screen, stunned. He had no idea who they were. He never even thought to ask. All he saw were 3 lives in danger. He had done what he hoped someone would do for him. Miss D watches him from the doorway. She sees the questions rising in his eyes, the way his fingers tap nervously on the table. She says nothing. She trusts him to carry this moment in his own way. Malik keeps his head down. He avoids the news vans now circling the hospital. He does not want to be found. He is not looking for reward. He is not looking for fame. He just wants to go back to walking his streets, feeding his strays, and dreaming of the day he can help people for a living. Behind the headlines and the flashing lights, the truth sits quietly. A boy with holes in his shoes and drawings in his notebook gave 3 children a second chance, and he asked for nothing in return. The investigation continues. Authorities promise justice. But the real story, the one no one can quite trace, belongs to the boy who walked away before anyone could thank him. Have you ever done the right thing without expecting anything in return? Drop your experience below. The morning sun climbs over the rooftops, casting long shadows across the sidewalk outside the shelter. Exhausted faces shuffle through the front gate, holding coffee cups and bundled coats. Then a car pulls up that silences the noise of the street. It is not just any car. It is a silver Rolls-Royce Phantom, its paint gleaming, its engine quiet like a whisper. Within seconds, reporters appear from both corners of the block. Cameras flash, microphones stretch forward. The crowd grows with every breath. But the car door opens without hesitation. William Langston steps out, dressed in a dark suit and long coat, his face drawn but focused. He ignores the noise and heads straight to the shelter's front desk. Inside, Miss D looks up, puzzled by the commotion outside. She sees a man she recognizes from the news walking straight toward her. His presence fills the space. He stops in front of her, voice calm but filled with weight. "Where can I find Malik?" Miss D steps forward, her chin lifting slightly. She has protected Malik his whole life. She's not about to stop now. Why do you want to know? Langston looks her in the eye and replies, I think your grandson saved my family. The words fall into the air like a warm light. Confusion flickers across Miss D's face, then softens into something else. She nods once and turns to call down the hall. Malik walks out slowly, eyes darting to the cameras outside, then to the man standing in the lobby. He recognizes him from the news stories. This is William Langston, the billionaire, the man whose babies he found. Langston does not wait for introductions. He drops to one knee in front of Malik and speaks clearly. I have got 3 boys because of you. I owe you everything. Malik opens his mouth, but no words come out. The room is silent except for the sound of shutters clicking outside the glass. Miss D places a hand on Malik's shoulder. Langston reaches into his coat and pulls out a sealed envelope. He holds it out to Miss D. This is for you and your grandson. It includes the deed to a home in a quiet neighborhood, a college fund that will grow with him, and 1 blank check for whatever you need. Miss D does not take it right away. Her hands tremble slightly. She looks to Malik. He nods, barely. Outside, a sleek black SUV waits at the curb, its engine running. A driver stands ready to escort them whenever they choose to leave. The shelter residents step back, watching the moment unfold with awe and quiet respect. Langston stands and turns to Malik again. I cannot repay what you did, but I can try to make sure your life gets easier from here. You did not do it for a reward. That is exactly why you deserve one. Malik still says nothing, but something in his expression shifts. He looks up at Miss D, then back at Langston. Then he takes a small step forward and shakes the man's hand. The cameras outside do not see tears. They do not hear the soft words that follow. They only capture the image of a billionaire beside a boy who had nothing but did everything. Langston does not linger. He places a hand on Malik's shoulder and turns to leave. As he exits, he says only one thing more to Miss D. Whenever you are ready, the keys are yours. The driver knows the way. Inside, the envelope is everything Malik never asked for. A future that once seemed impossible. A door to a life where he can dream without fear. Outside, the reporters shout questions, but no one answers. Miss D holds the envelope to her chest. Malik steps to the window and looks out at the SUV waiting to take them to something new. He does not say much that morning. But deep down, something settles. Not the value of what was given, but the proof that doing the right thing can still echo far beyond what anyone imagines. What would you do if someone rewarded your kindness beyond belief? Let us imagine together. Within 24 hours, Malik's name is on every major news station. From morning shows to late-night segments, headlines flash across the screen in bold letters, "The Guardian of Grace Street." Anchors tell the story with solemn voices and soft music. They replay the footage of the firehouse, the ambulance, the babies. Reporters stand outside the hospital and in front of the shelter. Everyone wants a quote. Everyone wants a glimpse of the boy who changed everything. But Malik does not appear. He avoids the cameras and turns off the TV. Miss D fields calls from journalists, authors, networks, and agents. Malik refuses them all. Then, after 3 days, he agrees to one interview. No lights, no fancy set. Just a small table in the back of the community center. The reporter arrives with a notebook, not a camera. Malik speaks clearly, his voice steady. He does not say much, but every word is honest. I did not do it for money or fame. I just could not walk away from them. That is all. The reporter writes every word, and the story spreads even faster. It is not just what Malik did that captures people. It is how he carries it, with quiet strength, with no interest in being the center of attention. Langston watches the interview from his office. Moved, he decides to build something lasting. 1 week later, he announces the launch of the Malik Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to supporting underprivileged youth. The mission is simple: give kids the tools, support, and confidence to become everyday heroes. Malik is named as its first youth board member. He helps shape the programs, choosing to focus on emergency training, animal rescue, and creative arts. The foundation opens doors in neighborhoods often ignored. It funds after-school programs, mobile clinics, and mentorship opportunities. Children who once felt invisible now have a place to grow. And at the heart of it all is a boy who once walked alleyways collecting cans and caring for strays. Meanwhile, teachers across the country begin using Malik's story in classrooms. It becomes part of social-emotional learning lessons, used to spark conversations about courage, empathy, and doing the right thing. Posters with his quote hang in hallways. You do not need powers to be a hero. You just need to show up. But it is his drawings that take on a life of their own. One sketch, in particular, spreads across social media like wildfire. It shows a boy in a hoodie, cradling 3 glowing orbs, standing between a dark alley and a bright light. Above him reads the name The Hood Guardian. Artists begin recreating it in murals and digital art. Fans start sending Malik their own superhero sketches. Children draw themselves with capes, with stethoscopes, with animal rescue kits. A publishing house reaches out with interest in turning his characters into a graphic novel series. At first, Malik is overwhelmed, but Miss D reminds him, "This is your story. You decide how it is told." So he writes, he draws. He shares pieces of his notebook with the foundation team, who help him create a small zine distributed to local schools. It is not about selling a brand. It is about giving kids someone to look up to, someone who looks like them, lives like them, and still chooses to care. In the weeks that follow, Malik receives thousands of letters. Some come from kids who have been in shelters. Others come from firefighters, nurses, and teachers. They call him brave. They call him a hero. Malik reads every single one. He keeps the ones that say things like, "Because of you, I helped someone today," or "I want to be like you when I grow up." He never expected any of it. But now that it is here, he knows what to do with it. Use it. Share it. Build something real from it. Because if one act of kindness can turn into all this, then maybe the world is ready for more than just stories. Maybe it is ready for change. Have you ever been inspired by a kid's bravery? Let us celebrate them. The ballroom glows under chandeliers that shimmer like stars. Elegant tables circle a stage lit with soft gold. Guests in suits and gowns fill the room, glasses clinking, voices hushed. It is the annual gala for the Malik Foundation, and tonight the air is thick with gratitude. Malik stands behind a podium at the center of it all. He wears a tailored navy suit, the tie knotted with quiet care. His shoes shine under the lights. He shifts his weight, clears his throat, and looks out at the hundreds of faces watching him. Somewhere near the front, Miss D sits with her hands folded, eyes bright. William Langston is beside her, holding his sons in his lap. Malik grips the edge of the podium, his fingers pressing against the polished wood. He takes a breath. "My grandma always said we do not need a lot to do something good, just heart," he begins. His voice is steady, if a little soft. That morning, I did not know who those babies were, but I knew what they needed, and I knew I could not walk away. The room falls silent. Not one fork clinks. Not one whisper stirs. Malik continues. Sometimes we wait for someone else to do the right thing. But what if we are the someone? What if we are the moment someone else is waiting for? Langston wipes his eyes with a napkin. His sons nestled close. One of them leans against his chest, thumb in mouth. The weight of what almost was and what now is rests in every corner of the room. I am not special, Malik says. I just listened. I just cared. A quiet applause builds from the back and spreads like a wave, respectful and full of feeling. Malik steps back from the microphone, offering a small nod. As he moves off the stage, the room stands. People rise to their feet. Some clap, some cry. All feel the echo of his words. Back at his table, Malik takes his seat beside Miss D. She pats his hand without a word, but pride radiates from her like warmth. Moments later, while guests begin their dinners and conversations, a small figure stumbles away from one of the front tables. One of the Langston triplets, just barely walking, makes his way across the floor with unsure steps. He reaches Malik and hugs his leg tightly, pressing his cheek against the dark fabric of the suit. Malik looks down, startled for a second, then smiles. Not a big grin, just a gentle, knowing smile. Guess I am part of their story now, he says softly. Langston steps up behind him, placing a hand on Malik's shoulder. He does not speak. He just lets the moment be what it is. The night carries on with music and speeches, auction bids and laughter. But that one moment becomes the headline. The photo. The one memory no one forgets. In the days that follow, the clip of Malik's speech spreads everywhere. Schools replay it. Foundations quote it. Even a group of students in another city paint it as a mural on their school wall. At the center is Malik in his suit, hand on the child's back, with the words, "We are the moment someone is waiting for." Malik goes back to school the next morning. He sits in the same seat, wears the same sneakers, carries the same notebook. But something is different. Not louder, not brighter, just clearer. His path, his role, his reason. That moment at the gala did not change him. It reminded him that all it takes is a choice, one person, one morning, one yes. And now he is the story others tell when they speak about courage. Has someone ever thanked you in a way you will never forget? Share below. Malik's story stretches far beyond his city. It crosses oceans, languages, and borders. From Tokyo to Nairobi, from small classrooms in rural villages to busy city cafes, people read about the boy who found 3 babies behind a dumpster and changed the world by simply caring. But it is not the rescue alone that captures hearts. It is the message behind it. Kindness does not belong only to the wealthy or powerful. It belongs to anyone with the courage to act when no one is watching. Journalists, authors, and filmmakers explore every angle of Malik's story. He appears in documentaries and school curriculums. Scholars discuss his decisions in ethics courses. His sketches of the Hood Guardian become symbols of bravery in public art installations. And through it all, Malik stays grounded. He attends school, volunteers at the shelter, and helps lead foundation meetings with the same calm, focused presence he always had. He never seeks the spotlight. He just shows up when it matters. Over time, that becomes his legacy. International leaders reference him in speeches. A hospital wing is named in his honor. Children write to him from places he has never heard of, telling him how his story gave them the strength to do the right thing when it was hardest. Some tell him they stood up for a friend. Others say they helped a lost animal. One even shares that she stopped a fight by remembering his quote, "We are the moment someone else is waiting for." Despite the growing attention, Malik remains exactly who he always was. He still draws in his notebook late at night. He still carries biscuits in his pocket for stray dogs. He still calls Miss D from every event, no matter how far he travels. When asked how life has changed, he often says, "I guess I just have more people to help now." Miss D stays right by his side through every chapter. Reporters love asking her questions, especially about the lavish gifts. They ask if she kept the Rolls Royce. She always laughs. "We kept the SUV," she says with a grin. "Malik said that other car was too shiny to be sneaky in." Their new home is modest but warm. It has a garden out back and a sunroom where Malik likes to read. The deed hangs in a frame in the hallway. The blank check remains untouched in a safe. To them, what matters most was never money. It was the chance to live without fear, to give without emptying their own hands. Langston visits often. His sons call Malik their big brother. They play in the yard together and bring drawings to hang on the fridge. What began as a miracle turned into a bond no reward could buy. Malik's foundation grows. It launches scholarships, youth leadership programs, and animal rescue partnerships. He always insists it stays local first. "The heroes I looked up to were in my neighborhood," he says, "so that is where we start." Years later, when asked to speak at a global youth summit, Malik closes his speech with a simple truth. Everyone thinks it has to be something huge, but sometimes the biggest change begins with stopping to listen, with choosing to care, without walking away. Applause follows, long and thunderous. But Malik just steps down from the stage, tucks his notebook under his arm, and smiles quietly. He knows the work continues. He knows there are still alleyways and shadows, still children who feel forgotten, still stories waiting for a hand to turn the page. And he will keep showing up. Because kindness is not a performance. It is a promise, one that says even the smallest actions can carry the weight of a miracle. So from alley pavement to marble stages, from quiet corners to crowded rooms, Malik reminds the world of something simple and profound. That you do not need wealth or fame or perfect timing. You just need a heart and the courage to use it. Share this if you believe small actions can lead to world-changing miracles. Location: North Oak Street, 4:45 p.m. A hungry boy, walking home with nothing in his pockets, sees an old woman fall on the sidewalk. Groceries scattered, pride shattered. Without thinking, he kneels beside her, gathering carrots, onions, and hope. What he doesn't know is that this isn't just an elderly neighbor. It's the wife of a billionaire. And the next day, a luxury car pulls up in front of his apartment. Not for someone else. For him. The afternoon sunlight spills across the streets of a quiet Chicago suburb, bathing parked cars and windows in a soft golden hue. The trees lining the sidewalk sway gently in the breeze, their leaves rustling like a whisper. Birds chirp from power lines overhead, and the air carries the faint scent of fresh-cut grass and distant barbecue smoke. Everything feels calm, slow, as if the world itself is taking a breath. 13-year-old Davin walks alone along the sidewalk, his steps dragging. His backpack hangs low, the zipper missing a tooth. His shoes are scuffed, soles thinning, but they carry him forward. School is over, and he is on his way home, though the thought of home brings no comfort. His stomach growls, a hollow reminder that dinner might not be more than toast and tap water tonight. His eyes stay low, watching the sidewalk beneath him like it might offer answers. As he rounds a corner, Davin's pace slows further. Up ahead, he spots an elderly woman stepping unsteadily along the path. She is small, her frame fragile under layers of clothing. In one hand, she grips a cane. In the other, a paper grocery bag. The bag bulges at the seams, heavy with cans and a loaf of bread peeking from the top. Then, without warning, she stumbles. One misstep on a crack in the pavement and her balance shifts. The grocery bag tears open as she falls, cans scattering across the sidewalk with sharp clanks. The woman gasps, her cane slipping from her grip. She lands awkwardly, her hand bracing the concrete, her face tightening in pain. For a moment, everything stops. A car passes but does not slow. A window closes across the street. Davin does not think. He moves. Without a word, he sprints toward her. "Ma'am!" "You okay?" he asks, breath catching as he drops to his knees beside her. The woman winces. Her voice is thin. "My leg. Just give me a moment." Davin gathers the scattered groceries with quick hands. A can rolls toward the gutter, and he snatches it before it disappears. He sets the items back into the torn bag as best he can, then retrieves her cane and gently offers it to her. She tries to rise, but struggles. Davin braces her with one arm, supporting her weight as she pushes herself to her feet. She leans heavily on the cane, trembling slightly. "You didn't have to stop," she says. Davin shrugs. "It looked like you needed help." She studies his face for a moment, then nods. "You remind me of someone. My grandson. He lives far now." Davin picks up the repaired grocery bag and slings it over his shoulder. "Where you headed?" he asks. "Have you ever helped someone simply because it was the right thing to do? Drop your moment below." Davin lives with his aunt and two younger cousins in a small second-floor apartment that always smells faintly of cooking oil and detergent. The space is tight. One hallway connects the bedrooms to the kitchen, and the walls are thin enough to hear arguments from the neighbors. It is not quiet, but Davin has learned how to find stillness in the noise. His room is little more than a mattress on the floor, and a milk crate filled with books and pencils. But taped to the wall are drawings of buildings, some real, most imagined. His mom passed away last year after a long illness. Since then, something in him has gone quieter. Not broken, just quieter. His aunt took him in, already stretched thin, raising her two boys. She works double shifts at a grocery store and cleans offices at night. She does her best. Davin knows that. He sees it in the tired way she smiles and the way she counts out change for gas. Dinner is not always promised. Some nights it is toast and mustard, and Davin calls it a sandwich. Other nights, if his aunt gets off early, she brings home leftovers from the deli where she stocks shelves. Davin never complains. He eats what there is, then washes the dishes and helps his cousins with homework when they ask. School is a blur. He shows up, keeps his head down. He is polite, answers questions when called on. But most of the time, the teachers do not notice him. He is not a troublemaker, not loud, not flashy. One teacher once said, "He's sweet, but invisible." Davin does not argue. He understands. He moves quietly through his days, saving his energy for something more. He dreams of being an architect. It started when he was 8 and saw a documentary about skyscrapers. Now he doodles buildings on the backs of his math tests, draws bridges in the margins of old notebooks, and sketches out tiny city blocks when he gets home. He studies blueprints online when the Wi-Fi works. He watches videos about design and reads about architects who look like him. He wants to build something lasting, something people walk into and feel seen. Sometimes, on his way home from school, Davin walks through neighborhoods where the houses are wide and the grass is perfect, where people keep their doors open and smile at each other across porches, but not at him. He gets side-eyed or ignored. Once, a man yelled from his porch, "Go back where you came from." Davin did not stop walking. He just gripped his sketchbook tighter. He did not yell back. He did not break stride. That is how he has learned to move, quietly, intentionally, with eyes forward and hands steady. It is not easy being a dreamer when the world barely notices you. But Davin keeps dreaming, not because anyone told him to, but because it is the one place where he feels powerful. Every line he draws is a way of saying, "I'm still here." Ever felt like you were trying to matter in a world that barely saw you? Let us talk. Davin crouches low, carefully gathering the scattered groceries one by one. The tomatoes are bruised, their skins split slightly, but he places them gently back into the bag along with the dented cans and a package of crackers. The woman steadies herself on her cane, breathing heavily. Her hands tremble as she tries to brush debris off her skirt. "Let me walk you home," Davin says softly, adjusting the weight of the bag on his arm. The woman blinks at him, a little surprised, then nods. "That'd be lovely, dear." They begin walking slowly down the sidewalk. Her cane clicks against the pavement in rhythm with Davin's careful steps. She coughs several times, sharp and dry, and Davin instinctively steadies her arm, shifting the groceries so he can support her better. They do not speak for a few moments. The wind stirs the leaves overhead, and the sun begins to dip lower in the sky. When they reach a side street lined with tall hedges and wide driveways, Davin slows. They approach a black iron gate that swings open at the press of a button. Beyond it is a long stone path leading to a house, no, a mansion, tucked behind neatly clipped shrubs and flowering trees. The building is massive, with tall windows and pillars at the front door. Davin stops, staring. "You live here?" he asks. "For 42 years, the woman replies with a small chuckle. "Built it with my husband back when the land was just grass and promise. I'm Mrs. Whitley." "Nice to meet you," Davin says, stepping back. He adjusts his hoodie and shifts the bag into her hand. "Hope you feel better soon." "Wait," she says, watching him closely. "You hungry?" Davin hesitates. His eyes flick to the gate, then to the front door. He shrugs, a little. Before she can say more, a neighbor from across the street steps outside. A man with a collared shirt and khakis, watering his bushes, glances their way. He sets down the hose and walks forward a few steps. "Everything all right, Mrs. Whitley?" he calls, his voice polite but edged with suspicion. Mrs. Whitley straightens up as much as her back will allow and smiles. "Perfectly," she says, her tone firm. "This young man just saved my groceries, and probably my hip." The man pauses. Then he nods and backs away slowly, returning to his yard. Davin watches him retreat. Then he looks at Mrs. Whitley. She does not look away. "Come in," she says. "You've earned more than a thank you." Davin hesitates again, then follows her through the open gate. As they walk up the stone path, the air feels different, softer, warmer. Inside, the foyer smells of lemon polish and old wood. A tall grandfather clock ticks in the corner. Mrs. Whitley leads him to the kitchen, a wide space filled with light and copper pots. She gestures for him to sit at a long wooden table. Ever done something kind and found yourself unexpectedly blessed? Tell us below. That evening, the light pouring into Mrs. Whitley's kitchen is golden and soft. The room is massive, with high ceilings and marble counters that reflect the glow of antique brass light fixtures. There is a warmth to it, not just from the oven, but from the soft jazz drifting out of the old radio near the window. Davin sits at the long wooden table, hands folded in his lap, glancing at the spotless surfaces and neat rows of spices along the far wall. Mrs. Whitley hums to the tune as she places a bowl of soup in front of him, along with a thick slice of buttered bread and a tall glass of juice. Davin mutters a quiet, "Thank you." He picks up his spoon and eats slowly, carefully. The soup is warm and rich, the bread soft and buttery. Mrs. Whitley watches him for a moment, then smiles. "Don't be shy. There's more where that came from." He looks up. His eyes are wide but steady. "Thank you, ma'am. This is the first real meal I've had in days." Her smile fades into something softer. "You reminded me of my grandson. He passed young, same spirit, same quiet way of seeing people." Davin dips his head. "Sorry to hear that." "Thank you," she says, setting another slice of bread beside his bowl. They sit together as the sun dips lower, shadows stretching across the kitchen tile. When he finishes, Davin reaches for the dishes. "I'll clean up," he offers. Mrs. Whitley raises an eyebrow. "You're a guest." "Still," he says, already standing. He carries his bowl to the sink and begins rinsing it, then scrubs gently with soap and water. His motions are careful, practiced. She leans in the doorway, sipping tea. "You've done this before," she says. Davin nods. "At home, every day." When the dishes are finished and the towel hangs neatly on the oven handle, he thanks her again. "You're welcome any time," she says. He walks out the front door into the cooling evening. The sun is almost gone, leaving streaks of pink and orange across the sky. He keeps his hood up as he turns down the sidewalk, heading back to his side of town. As he passes a group of teens across the street, he hears them laughing. One calls out, loud enough for everyone to hear, "What were you doing in there, houseboy?" Davin does not flinch. He does not look back, but the sting settles in his chest. He walks faster, not because he is scared, but because he knows some people only see what they want to see. Still, in his pocket, he carries the folded napkin Mrs. Whitley had tucked beside his plate. On it, a handwritten note in gentle script. "Thank you for your kindness. Come back any time." That napkin means more than their words ever could. What was a meal you'll never forget? And why? Share the story. Davin wakes up to the familiar sounds of his world. The heater clanks and spits, but never fully warms the room. The pipes groan as someone upstairs runs water. From the hallway, his two cousins bicker over who gets the bathroom first. The floor is cold beneath his feet as he stands, stretching the sleep out of his bones. He rubs his eyes and grabs yesterday's hoodie from the back of a chair. In the kitchen, there's no smell of breakfast. The cupboards are thin, same as the fridge. He pours a glass of water and stares out the window above the sink. That is when he sees it. Parked along the cracked curb is a sleek, black Rolls-Royce Phantom, its paint gleaming under the gray morning light. The car looks completely out of place beside the rusted sedans and dented pickups lining the street. Davin squints. A man steps out of the passenger side. He is tall, wearing a dark suit, tie perfectly knotted. His shoes shine. He walks with purpose toward the building. There is a knock at the door. Davin's aunt pulls the curtain back slightly and peers through. "You in trouble?" she asks quietly. Davin shakes his head. "I don't think so." He opens the door slowly. The suited man gives a polite nod. "You Davin?" Yes." "Mrs. Whitley sent me. She'd like to see you." Davin blinks. "Right now?" "If you are available." His aunt steps behind him, arms crossed. "Who is she?" "A woman I helped yesterday," Davin replies. His aunt studies the man for a beat longer, then looks at Davin. "You sure?" Davin nods. He slips on his sneakers and steps outside. The wind bites at his neck. He zips up his hoodie. From a few steps down, the neighbor from the first floor leans against the railing, sipping coffee. "Bet they think you're stealing something," the neighbor mutters loud enough to hear. Davin hears it. He always does. He does not respond. He just walks. Jaw set, shoulders back. His breath puffs in the cold air. The suited man opens the car door. Davin steps inside. The leather is smooth, the air inside warm and filled with the scent of cedar and lemon. It is the kind of car he has only ever seen in magazines or idling behind tinted windows. As the car pulls away from the curb, Davin leans back. His stomach still aches, but his mind races faster. He does not know what Mrs. Whitley wants, but something in him hopes that maybe this is one of those moments, the kind people talk about long after they happen, the kind that shifts everything, even if just a little. He watches his block disappear behind him through the back window, and he wonders, ever had your whole day change in a moment? Let us know how. The Rolls-Royce glides through the gated entrance of the Whitley estate and stops in the circular driveway. Davin steps out slowly, still unsure whether this is real. The front doors open before he can knock. Mrs. Whitley stands in the foyer, dressed in soft gray and pearls, her cane steady beneath her hand. "Good morning, Davin," she says warmly. "Good morning, ma'am," he replies. She leads him down the hallway to the same kitchen where he had dinner just the evening before. The jazz music is playing again, softer this time. A small tea set waits at the table, steam rising from the pot. "Sit," she says, motioning to a chair. Davin sits, trying not to fidget. He watches her pour tea into delicate cups, then open a large leather portfolio resting beside the tray. Inside are thick pages filled with hand-drawn blueprints, watercolor sketches of houses and office buildings, and photos of construction sites from decades past. "You said you liked buildings," she begins. "My husband owned one of the largest construction firms in Illinois, built hospitals, libraries, schools. He believed in strong structures and stronger communities." Davin leans in, eyes wide. "He always said talent shows itself early," she continues, "and it is up to us to notice." She slides the portfolio toward him. Davin flips through the pages slowly. Each design is beautiful, balanced, alive with vision. He recognizes some of the buildings from city landmarks. He cannot believe he is holding the original drawings. Then Mrs. Whitley pulls out an envelope and places it on the table. She slides it across to him with the same care she gave the tea. "This," she says gently, "is a scholarship. Full tuition to a private middle school focused on architecture and design, and a guaranteed internship next summer at a local architecture firm run by one of my husband's protégés." Devon stares at the envelope, unable to speak. "They've already seen your sketches," she adds. "I showed them the notebook you left in the kitchen last night by accident. They were impressed." His throat tightens. His hands tremble slightly as he picks up the letter. "You earned this, Davin. Not because someone gave it to you, but because you gave something first. Kindness, integrity, the courage to act when no one was watching. That is the kind of character the world needs." He looks up. His voice is barely a whisper. "Thank you." "You are welcome," she replies, "and I hope you say yes." He reads the letter again, then again. He cannot stop the small smile spreading across his face. For the first time in a long while, he feels seen. Not as a boy passing quietly through a world too busy to notice, but as someone who matters, someone with potential. He places the letter back in the envelope, carefully, as if it might break. Then he looks at Mrs. Whitley. "I want to do something with this," he says. "You already are," she answers. They finish their tea. She asks about his favorite architects. He tells her about a bridge he designed in his sketchbook. She laughs softly and says he thinks like her husband did. When he leaves the house an hour later, the sun has climbed higher. The streets look the same, but Davin does not. His steps are quicker, his heart lighter. He tucks the envelope into his backpack like treasure. Ever been offered an opportunity that changed everything? What did you do with it? Davin begins at his new school, in the chill of early fall. The buildings are modern, the walls clean and lined with student artwork. The first day, his palms sweat against the straps of his backpack. He walks through the tall glass doors and feels like an outsider among tailored uniforms and polished shoes. Still, he shows up early. He takes notes in every class. He eats lunch alone for a while, a sketchbook open beside his tray. He listens more than he speaks. Slowly, things begin to shift. By mid-October, his geometry teacher calls him focused. In science, his experiments are meticulous. In art, he sketches structures with such detail that his teacher pins them to the wall. By winter break, he finishes his first building model, a small library made of cardboard, paper, and glue, modeled after the old brick structure down the block from his old school. It takes him 2 weeks of careful cutting and gluing. Mrs. Whitley visits the school once a week. She walks the halls with her cane, offering gentle smiles to the front office staff. She always finds Davin during lunch or after class, checks his notebooks, asks about his projects. "You're building more than structures," she says during one visit. "You're building a future." Her words stay with him. Not everyone at the new school welcomes him. One student makes a snide comment about his thrift store jacket. Another snickers at his off-brand shoes. A teacher once accused him of copying from a classmate, surprised that someone so quiet could also be so accurate. Davin explains his work calmly. He keeps his drawings. He shows his process. The teacher backs off, but the sting lingers. Still, Davin keeps going. He reminds himself daily of why he is there. Not because of what he wears or where he came from, but because someone saw his kindness and believed in his mind. He finishes every assignment early. He starts sketching a park redesign for a class project. He learns drafting software on weekends with the old laptop Mrs. Whitley gave him for his birthday. By spring, he has found his rhythm. And then he does something more. He begins tutoring other kids back in his neighborhood. Every Saturday, he meets them in the community center's back room. Some need help with math. Others just want a quiet place to sit and draw. Davin brings extra pencils, folded worksheets, and snacks when he can. He shows them how to use rulers, how to shade properly, how to take pride in small steps. They listen because he does not talk down to them. He remembers what it felt like to be invisible. One of the younger boys brings him a sketch of a house made from cereal boxes and string. "You think it's good?" the boy asks. Davin studies it seriously. "I think it's a great start. Want help making the roof stronger?" The boy nods eagerly. At night, Davin keeps drawing. His models grow more complex. He studies city maps and tries to imagine where empty lots could bloom into something new. He still keeps in touch with Mrs. Whitley. She sends articles and postcards from places she visits. Sometimes she brings old books her husband once used, filled with worn blueprints and handwritten notes. for inspiration, she says. Davin stores each one carefully on a shelf beside his desk. Everything began with a small moment of kindness on a cracked sidewalk, and now it ripples outward, into classrooms, into homes, into futures still unfolding. Have you ever taken a blessing and passed it on? Let us celebrate those cycles of kindness. The sun shines bright on a wide lot in Southside Chicago, where a stage has been set and folding chairs line the freshly laid pavement. A banner flutters above the crowd, bold letters reading, "A future site of the Davin Brooks Community Center." Davin stands at the podium in a tailored suit, shoulders steady, eyes lifted toward the crowd gathered before him. His voice is calm, but carries easily over the mic. Behind him stands the framework of the new building. Steel beams stretch into the sky, surrounded by scaffolding and hope. This will be a space for after-school tutoring, creative arts, free meals, and mentorship. A place he once dreamed of as a boy, drawing in the margins of his math notebook. In the front row, Mrs. Whitley sits with a soft blanket over her knees and a small corsage pinned to her coat. Time has slowed her movements, but her eyes remain bright. She nods as Davin speaks. "This all started," Davin says, pausing to glance at her, "with a bag of groceries, a scraped knee, and a yes." The crowd laughs gently. Then applause rolls forward like a tide. He looks over the sea of faces, students, families, city officials, old neighbors. He spots his former teacher, who once called him invisible, clapping now with both hands. He sees the younger kids he used to tutor, now taller, standing near the back with matching T-shirts that read, "Future Builders." Davin continues, "Kindness, once given, never stops building. It lays a foundation deeper than concrete, stronger than steel." Flashbulbs pop as he smiles and steps away from the mic. A ribbon waits in front of the main beam. He holds the scissors with steady hands, flanked by Mrs. Whitley and a group of neighborhood kids. The ribbon falls. The crowd cheers, and something inside Davin settles, not as an end, but as a beginning. He walks down from the stage and takes Mrs. Whitley's arm. Together they tour the site. She nods with each room he points out: the tech lab, the open-air garden, the reading nook with beanbags and murals by local artists. She touches the wall near the entrance, where her husband's original sketch of a community library hangs framed. "You remembered," she says softly. "Always," Davin replies. On the way out, he kneels and speaks to a young boy holding a rolled-up set of drawings. "You designed something?" Davin asks. The boy nods. "A place where my grandma can get warm in winter." Davin smiles. "Sounds like a strong design. Come back next week. I'll show you how to model it." As the day winds down, people linger. They take photos, shake hands, share stories. Later, alone in his office tucked at the back of the construction trailer, Davin places a worn envelope on the desk. Inside is the napkin Mrs. Whitley once wrote on. The same gentle script. "Thank you for your kindness. Come back any time." It reminds him where it all began. Not with money, not with a plan, but with a moment. In a world that once looked past him, in a city where many expected him to fail, Davin's story stands now as a foundation others can build from. Proof that a single act of compassion can outlast generations of doubt. He leans back in his chair, listening to the sounds of saws and hammers outside. The work continues, and he is proud to be part of it. Share this story if you believe small kindness can build lifelong bridges. Location: Westwood Hills Estate, 4:41 p.m. A boy with grease on his hands walks into a home filled with priceless antiques and oil paintings. He's here to fix an old television. But what he doesn't know is that his focus, patience, and quiet brilliance are about to spark a chain of events that will rewrite his life. In a world where people judge by clothes and skin, one boy's hands-on genius breaks through generations of silence and money. Stay with us, because what the billionaire does next will leave you speechless. The camera glides through the sprawling halls of an enormous estate, where sunlight slips between velvet curtains and dances across polished wood floors. Outside, oak-lined driveways wind like golden ribbons through acres of manicured lawns. Inside, silence lingers like a question waiting to be answered. In the heart of the mansion sits a grand library, its high walls lined with antique books and glimmering brass fixtures. A fire flickers in the marble hearth, its quiet crackle the only sound in the room. The golden glow of morning sunlight bathes everything in soft light. Kneeling on the rug at the center of the room is Jaden, age 14. He wears a plain hoodie, a pair of worn jeans, and an expression of calm concentration. In his hand is a small screwdriver, and before him stands a dusty, vintage television, more museum piece than machine. The air in the room is thick with quiet skepticism. Members of the house staff hover nearby. A maid leans toward a footman and whispers, "He is just a street kid. What is he going to fix?" Jaden hears her. He hears them all. But his eyes never leave the screws. One by one, he loosens them, careful not to strip the worn threads. He places each one beside him in neat order. Behind him, watching from a distance, is Mr. Whitmore. Tall, silver-haired, dressed in a tailored suit, he stands with arms crossed. Years of disappointment have left his face unreadable. He has hosted engineers, consultants, and collectors, all of whom failed to bring this old television back to life. When his assistant suggested bringing in a teenager from the city's outreach program, Whitmore nearly laughed. But now, as he watches Jaden work, something in the boy's steadiness causes him to pause. Jaden wipes his brow with the back of his hand and lifts the television's rear panel. Dust puffs into the air. He does not flinch. He examines the wiring, adjusts his grip, and begins cleaning the connection points with a brush from his back pocket. No one speaks. The fire crackles. The tension stretches like a wire pulled taut. This moment, unfolding in golden light and quiet doubt, could end in humiliation or in a miracle. Jaden does not hope for applause. He only hopes for one clean spark. Where are you watching from? Ever walked into a room where you felt out of place? Tell us. Jaden lives on the third floor of a brick apartment building, with cracked walls and pipes that clang every time the shower is turned on. The hallway smells like old laundry and yesterday's cooking. His room is the smallest in the apartment, but it feels like an entire world. Schematics are taped to the walls, some printed from the library, others hand-drawn in pencil and labeled with arrows and notes. Tech parts, broken radios, old circuit boards, and stripped wires are stacked in plastic bins beside a makeshift workstation built from wooden crates and an old cabinet door. Each morning starts with the same quiet ritual. He wakes before sunrise to the hum of the city outside and checks the note on the kitchen table. Always the same handwriting. Always the same message. Love you. Be safe. It is written in black ink on a yellow post-it and stuck to a plastic bag of cereal. His mother, Talia, leaves them every night before she catches the bus to her cleaning job downtown. She scrubs marble floors and glass elevators while the office lights are off and the city sleeps. Jaden rarely sees her during the week except in passing, but their communication is stitched together with sticky notes and phone calls during her breaks. When they do have time together, It is sacred. They share leftover takeout on the fire escape and talk about everything from resistor voltages to old cartoons. She calls him her bright mind. He calls her his anchor. His father has not been around for years. No explanations, no letters, just a silence that settled and never moved. That absence changed things. Jaden became the man of the house without ever being asked. He works after school doing odd jobs, replacing light fixtures, resetting routers, fixing microwaves for neighbors who can't afford repair shops. His backpack always holds a small tool set next to his homework. At school, he blends in until he is forced to stand out. Teachers rarely ask him for answers. Some have already decided who he is. One math teacher once told him, "Stick to trade work. College is not for everyone." Jaden nodded, but the words dug in. Another student once laughed and said, "You fix toasters? You're just a future janitor." The comment stung, not because of what was said, but because of how others laughed along. Still, Jaden keeps going, keeps fixing, keeps learning. His grandmother, before she passed, used to tell him, "Talent is louder than hate, baby. Let your work speak." He never forgot that. When his hands are inside a circuit, when he feels the snap of a connection sliding into place, everything makes sense. The noise outside fades. What is left is purpose. His favorite projects are always the ones others have given up on. Broken radios with missing knobs, remote controls filled with corrosion. Once, he brought an entire coffee maker back to life using the heating coil from a hairdryer. He does not care about making things pretty. He cares about making them work. Jaden does not dream of fame. He dreams of building something that matters. Maybe a tech company that helps low-income families. Maybe a nonprofit that teaches kids to repair and create instead of consume and discard. Whatever it is, he wants to leave proof that brilliance can come from anywhere. He walks with quiet confidence through places that try to forget him. And when the world tells him to stay small, he sharpens his tools and gets to work. He focuses not on what is broken, but on what can be built from what remains. That is his power. That is his path. Because his dream is not built on what others expect. It is built on what he knows he can do. And each time he picks up a screwdriver, each time he reads a circuit board, each time he rebuilds something that was left behind, he adds another line to his story. A story still unfolding. Have you ever chased a dream people said you could not reach? Let us hear about it. The buzz of soldering tools and low music fills the air at the Community Tech Hub, a converted shipping container tucked behind a laundromat. Inside, young minds work hunched over disassembled radios, toy drones, and blinking circuit boards. Jaden is crouched beside a metal toaster, coaxing life into the stubborn appliance. His fingers move fast, steady, and sure. Wires click together, sparks flicker. He is in his element. Miss Claire, the Tech Hub supervisor, stands near the entrance balancing a clipboard and a phone against her shoulder. Her brow furrows mid-call. She turns toward the room. "They need someone urgently at Whitmore Estate," she announces, eyes wide. A ripple of surprise moves through the space. Someone whistles. Another teen snorts. "Whitmore!" As in the old money mansion with the indoor pool and the panic room. Claire nods. That Whitmore. Vintage Zenith television on the fritz. Laughter follows her words. Heads shake. Jokes fly. They want a pro, not a kid. Bet they want some fancy repair firm. Why would they call here? Claire shrugs. They called every repair shop in town. No one wanted to touch it. Said it has not worked in over 20 years. Jaden wipes his hands on a towel and steps forward. "Let me try." Claire blinks. "You? They're expecting a technician with a certification. Jaden straightens his shoulders. Let me try. There's a beat of silence. Then Claire sighs. All right. Don't embarrass us, all right? Take your kit. You represent the hub. 15 minutes later, a sleek black sedan pulls up outside the tech hub. The driver does not say much, only opens the door and nods toward the back seat. Jaden climbs in with his worn backpack resting on his knees. The ride is silent. The city fades into manicured lawns and stone gates. When they arrive at Whitmore Estate, the vehicle rolls down a long circular driveway and stops behind the grand house. Jaden is led through the back service entrance. The staff barely look at him. He catches whispers. That's the kid they sent? I thought we were getting someone official. He's probably going to break it worse. Inside, the halls are lined with portraits and polished floors. The air smells like cedar and money. A maid walks past carrying a tray of crystal glasses. She raises an eyebrow. A footman nearly bumps into him, then continues on without apology. They lead Jaden to the library, where the television waits like a relic. It sits heavy and square on a wooden console, encased in polished walnut, silent as a tomb. Mr. Whitmore stands beside the hearth. He does not extend a hand. He barely blinks. The zenith, he grunts. No one's fixed it in 20 years. Let's see what you've got, boy. It is not a greeting. It is a test. Jaden does not flinch. He walks past the staff, kneels on the rug, and unzips his kit. He studies the television for a moment, then begins to work. Behind him, the whispers begin again. Curiosity, doubt. A slow burn of tension as screw by screw, panel by panel, he exposes the machine's forgotten insides. He hears none of it. His mind quiets. His focus sharpens. Every motion is deliberate. Every pause means something. He breathes through it. This is not just about fixing a television. It is about proving that he belongs in rooms like this. Rooms built to overlook him. The fire crackles. Mr. Whitmore watches. The maid stands frozen, tray forgotten. Someone leans closer, and Jaden works. Have you ever had to prove yourself the moment you walked in? Drop your story. Jaden kneels on the ornate rug, tools spread out neatly beside him. The vintage 1961 Zenith television looms in front of him like a stubborn relic from another era. Its wooden frame is smooth but worn, its brass knobs dulled by time. He runs his fingers over the panel, listening to the quiet hum of the room. In his mind, this machine has its own kind of soul. The tubes inside are older than his mother. The staff around him exchange skeptical glances. A butler folds his arms. A maid whispers under her breath, "This is pointless." Jaden hears them, but he does not respond. He picks up his voltage tester and begins tracing the internal pathways. His motions are calm and methodical. He follows each wire like a story, measuring every shift in current, watching for inconsistencies. He adjusts the cathode gently, fingers moving as if by memory. This is not guesswork. This is understanding. He sees the way the dust has settled across the copper coils. He notes where the soldering has worn thin. Every observation builds a map in his head. He works slowly, not because he is unsure, but because speed has never been the point. Precision matters. A footman chuckles from across the room. Another staff member mutters, "He's wasting everyone's time." Jaden continues without a word. He removes a cracked insulator, replaces a loose grounding wire, and cleans the lens behind the front panel. As he reaches for one of the vacuum tubes, it slips slightly in his grip and cracks. The pop is soft, but unmistakable. Gasps ripple through the room. Someone laughs under their breath. Jaden swallows the wave of panic rising in his chest. Without missing a beat, He opens his kit and pulls out a matching replacement from a padded pouch. Always carry extras, he mutters quietly to himself. He inserts the new tube with extra care. It clicks into place. He tightens the side bracket and checks the copper alignment inside the housing. He adjusts the spacing until it feels just right, then takes a single deep breath. Silence fills the library. Jaden places his hand on the side of the Zenith and flips the power switch. At first, nothing happens. The staff begin to turn away, but then a faint whine builds. The screen glows softly. A moment later, the familiar grain of black and white static dances across the glass. And then, the image sharpens. A movie appears. A man in a suit stands in front of a 1960s cityscape, grainy and full of motion. The room freezes. Jaden sits back slightly, the glow of the screen reflecting off his face. Mr. Whitmore steps forward slowly. His eyes are locked on the television. "I watched my father on this screen," he murmurs. No one speaks. The fire crackles behind them, but no one turns away from the Zenith. Even the maid sets down her tray. Even the butler unfolds his arms. Jaden finally stands, brushing the dust from his knees. He does not smile. He does not look for praise. He only nods once and begins putting his tools away. Mr. Whitmore approaches him, still staring at the working machine. "How did you know what to do?" Jaden meets his eyes. "I listen. Machines speak when you pay attention." Mr. Whitmore nods, his voice quiet. Most people stop listening before they even try. Jaden packs the final screwdriver, zips the bag, and stands tall. What he has repaired is not just circuitry. It is memory. It is possibility. The whispers are gone now. The room holds a different kind of silence, one filled with understanding. Have you ever fixed something others gave up on? Tell us how it felt. Jaden packed his tools with the same care he had shown when opening the Zenith. One by one, each piece returned to its designated place in the kit. The television still glowed gently behind him, playing the same vintage black and white movie. The room was quieter now, but it carried a different energy. It felt as though something had shifted. He zipped the kit and stood. No one spoke. A few of the staff moved aside as he walked toward the library doors. Jaden expected to be thanked politely, paid quietly, and sent back to the neighborhood he came from. That would have been enough. He had done what he came to do. Just as he reached the threshold, Mr. Whitmore cleared his throat. Jaden turned. "Where did you learn that?" Whitmore asked, voice even, eyes sharp. Jaden paused. "Books, online tutorials, old junk mostly, trial and error." Whitmore nodded slowly. "You fixed what no one else could." Jaden shifted slightly, unsure how to respond. Whitmore turned to his assistant, who stood near the fireplace with a tablet in hand. "Set him up for tomorrow." The assistant blinked. "Sir? Tomorrow, 10 sharp." Jaden's brow furrowed, but Whitmore gave no further explanation. He simply nodded once and walked away. Jaden left the estate the way he came, through the back entrance. The driver offered no details, just held the door and returned him home. When Jaden reached his apartment building, the sun had begun to set. He climbed the stairs, head full of questions. As he reached the top step, he saw something resting against the door. A sleek silver box sat there, gleaming under the flickering hallway light. He picked it up and carried it inside. Miss Talia was still at work. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the fridge. Jaden opened the box carefully. Inside was a top-tier soldering station, the kind he had only seen on tech forums. Alongside it was a full precision toolkit, organized in custom foam, each tool engraved with subtle initials. A folded card rested on top. "This is just the start." That was all it said. Jaden stood in the middle of the kitchen holding the note. His hands trembled slightly, not from disbelief but from something deeper. Recognition. Someone had seen him. Not just his skill, but the depth of what he carried. The hours. The silence. The choice to keep going. He set the box on his desk and stared at it for a long time. Then he unpacked the tools and laid them out like an altar. A space where purpose and possibility finally met. The next morning, he arrived at the estate on time. The driver was waiting. This time, Jaden walked through the front door. Mr. Whitmore met him in the marble foyer. No assistant, no staff, just the two of them. He extended a small, white envelope. Jaden took it and opened the flap. Inside was a dark silver card. On its face, engraved in fine lettering, Lifetime Access, Whitmore Innovation Lab. Whitmore nodded. You are not just a fixer. You are a builder, and builders deserve better tools. Jaden could not find the words, so he simply nodded in return. The rest of the morning passed in a quiet tour. Whitmore showed him a private wing filled with devices in various stages of design, 3D printers, circuit simulators, prototype engines. The lab was clean, humming, alive with ideas. Jaden took it all in, every detail, every cable, every possible future. By the time he left that day, something in him felt sturdier. Not finished, just beginning. Has someone ever recognized your potential when you least expected it? Let us celebrate them. The days following the repair of the Zenith television unfold like chapters in a new book. Jaden returns to the estate regularly, first for small tasks, then for longer visits. What starts as a quiet agreement between him and Mr. Whitmore slowly becomes something more deliberate. Whitmore does not say much in the beginning. He observes, makes notes, leaves open books in Jaden's path. One day, it is a manual on transistor theory. Another day, a memoir by a pioneering engineer. Then come the introductions. Engineers and inventors from Whitmore's vast network begin appearing at the estate's lab, exchanging ideas over coffee and circuits. Jaden listens more than he speaks. He watches how they move, how they think aloud. He takes notes in the margins of his own notebook, jotting questions to research later. In between visits, he builds small radios in his room. He restores antique clocks Whitmore had nearly thrown away. He starts teaching himself the basics of machine learning, using free resources and old textbooks Whitmore quietly lends him. Their conversations begin as short as their meetings. A question here, a correction there. Slowly, they expand. One evening, while reviewing the wiring of a miniature weather station project, Whitmore finally shares a piece of his story. He tells Jaden about starting his first company in a garage behind a grocery store, about building something only to watch it collapse from poor planning and bad timing, about having to rebuild everything from scratch with fewer friends and more doubt. Jaden listens carefully, never interrupting. Whitmore looks out the window when he finishes the story. I got so good at hiding my failures, I forgot how much they taught me. Jaden nods. Failures speak louder than wins sometimes. From then on, their work becomes more collaborative. Whitmore critiques Jaden's diagrams with careful honesty. Jaden asks sharper questions. He begins documenting his process in detail, writing reflections in his journal each night. With encouragement, he starts recording simple tutorial videos on repair work and uploads them online. The channel gains traction slowly, then all at once. People begin to comment. Teachers reach out. Former skeptics leave messages of encouragement. Subscribers grow week by week. Jaden, once invisible in his own classroom, now shares lessons with thousands of viewers around the world. His confidence grows not from applause, but from clarity. He begins leading repair workshops at the local community center. Younger kids gather around as he explains circuits and power flow. He is patient. He is clear. He remembers what it was like to be the quiet one in the room. Whitmore watches all of this unfold with quiet pride. He never takes credit. He just makes space. One afternoon, as Jaden adjusts the antenna on a field transmitter he designed, Whitmore leans against the doorway of the lab. He folds his arms and says softly, "You remind me of myself before the world got in the way." Jaden does not look up right away. He finishes tightening a screw, then turns to face him. That's the goal, right? To not let it get in the way again. Whitmore nods. He does not smile often, but today there is something close. Jaden returns to his work, but the words settle in his chest like steady hands. What they have built together is more than a lab or a channel or a skill set. It is a path. It is proof that mentorship can be quiet and powerful, built in moments rather than declarations. Have you ever had someone teach you something that changed your whole path? Drop your story. The convention center buzzes with energy as attendees shuffle between rows of booths and interactive displays. It is the annual West Coast Tech Expo, a sprawling event filled with innovators, investors, and eager spectators. Tucked in a prominent corner of the Student Innovation section, Jaden stands beside a modest table. On display is a small prototype labeled ARIA, Adaptive Repair Intelligence Assistant. It is not the flashiest setup in the room, but it is the one gathering the longest line. ARIA, a compact AI-powered device, scans broken electronics and suggests custom repair plans. Jaden built it using repurposed parts, open-source software, and months of late nights at the lab. Curious onlookers gather. A few investors pause, then stay. Engineers lean in for questions. A representative from a major tech publication whispers to her photographer, "Get a shot of the kid." By midday, Jaden's table has drawn a small crowd. People watch in amazement as he demonstrates ARIA, diagnosing a corroded circuit board and outlining the repair in real time. A panel judge for the Expo's Emerging Talent category asks to see the code base. Jaden walks him through it without missing a beat. Media outlets take notice. Within hours, headlines begin to appear. Teen from the streets shocks industry with DIY AI invention. Young innovator redefines repair tech. No degree, no backing, just brilliance. Back at the estate, Whitmore follows the coverage from his study. When a reporter calls for comment, he responds with a quote that appears everywhere by the next morning. Jaden Carter is the future of technology. I am proud to name him the first Youth Tech Fellow of the Whitmore Foundation. The title includes access to funding, research facilities, and a global mentorship network. Jaden receives the news by email, but hears it first from a handshake and a quiet smile from Whitmore himself. The awards ceremony takes place in a polished auditorium overlooking the bay. Jaden walks onto the stage in a simple black suit. His voice shakes slightly as he faces the audience, but his words land clearly. "You do not have to be born in a mansion to fix the future," he says. "Sometimes all it takes is one chance, one tool, one moment." The room stands in applause, not just for the invention, but for the message. When he returns home to his neighborhood, Jaden finds something unexpected. His school has planned a pep rally in his honor. Streamers line the gymnasium. Students fill the bleachers. The principal reads a speech about perseverance and vision. Jaden stands awkwardly near the edge of the court until someone hands him the mic. He does not give a long speech. He just says, "If you ever feel like you do not belong, build a reason to stay." Even some of the students who once mocked him come forward. A few shake his hand. One apologizes. Another asks how to start learning basic coding. Jaden answers every question. Back in his room, his notebook has grown into a digital archive. His online channel has reached 50,000 subscribers. His inbox fills daily with messages from students, teachers, and parents. He responds to as many as he can. Recognition does not change Jaden's rhythm. He still spends hours rebuilding discarded tech. He still sharpens his tools. He still watches the world with quiet attention. But he walks taller now. He knows the worth of his hands, his ideas, and his voice. He knows that rising does not mean forgetting where you started. It means opening the door wider behind you. Have you ever turned doubt into your drive? Let us hear how you rose up. At 19, Jaden runs a nonprofit dedicated to training kids from underserved communities in electronics and engineering. The organization began in a borrowed classroom with a few donated kits and a dozen curious students. Today, it operates out of a bustling tech hub in the heart of the city. The space is filled with energy, ideas, and the quiet clatter of progress. Jaden's team includes former students, local mentors, and engineers who once watched his rise with curiosity and now support it with admiration. Together, they have trained over 500 youth. 12 scholarships have been launched through partnerships with universities and tech firms. More than 80 free tech repair kiosks have been installed in low-income neighborhoods, each staffed by graduates of his training program. Jaden remains hands-on. He still teaches. He still repairs. He still walks into classrooms with the same backpack and the same look of quiet determination. Students listen when he speaks, not because he demands it, but because he speaks from experience. He shows them what it looks like to build something lasting from the scraps others left behind. His online platform has grown into a global community. Video tutorials, virtual labs, and guest sessions from inventors and innovators are available to anyone with internet access. His message remains unchanged. Brilliance is not bound by wealth. Genius is not limited to zip codes. Every Sunday, Jaden visits Mr. Whitmore. The estate feels more like a second home now. They do not speak much about the past. Instead, they sit side by side at the long oak table in the lab, restoring vintage gadgets and talking quietly about circuits and ideas. Whitmore has grown older, slower, but his mind remains sharp. He tells fewer stories now and asks more questions. He watches Jaden with the same quiet pride he once tried to hide. Their bond is unspoken but unmistakable. In the front hall of the estate, enclosed in a glass case, sits the original Zenith television, the same one Jaden fixed at 14. It still works. It plays a loop of black and white footage from the day it came back to life. Next to it hangs a photo of Jaden, kneeling mid-repair, his expression focused, his hands steady. Beneath the display is a simple plaque, built to last. So was he. Visitors pause there often. Some know the story, others learn it as they walk through the estate's innovation wing, now renamed the Carter Whitmore Center for Applied Design. Jaden does not dwell on recognition. He stays in motion. There are more students to reach, more machines to restore, more pathways to clear. When asked how he measures success, he always says the same thing. When a kid who thought they were invisible learns how to make something that matters, that is when we win. Jaden's journey is no longer just about proving himself. It is about making space for others. It is about legacy built through tools and time, through courage and mentorship. He still keeps his first toolkit on his shelf. The soldering station gifted to him rests beside a framed note that reads, "This is just the start." He glances at it before every class, every workshop, every launch, because the work is never finished. And that is exactly how he likes it. Share this story if you believe genius can come from anywhere and that all it needs is a chance. Location: Southside Chicago, 6:32 a.m. On a rainy morning, 13-year-old Tyrell waits for the bus with his older sister, trying to ignore the stares, the slurs, the tension that hangs thick at this stop. But everything changes when an old white man collapses in front of them, gasping for air. Tyrell acts without hesitation. No one else moves. What happens next? A phone call, chest compressions, a heartbeat, saves a life. But it's what he finds the next day that leaves him speechless. A crumpled note, soaked in rain, and redemption. The sun has not yet broken through the slate-gray sky as early morning settles over Southside Chicago. The air smells like damp asphalt and engine fumes. Rain drizzles lightly, coating everything in a faint sheen. The cracked pavement at the corner bus stop gleams under the weak orange glow of the street lamp overhead. A few empty snack wrappers rustle across the curb before getting pinned to the grate by the wind. Tyrell stands beside his younger sister, LaToya, under the plexiglass shelter, hoodie drawn tight over his head. His breath curls in the chill. The quiet hum of traffic blends with the soft hiss of the city waking up. School is still an hour away, but this is the only time Mama can get them out the door and on the bus. They wait in silence. LaToya shifts from foot to foot, trying to keep warm. Tyrell scans the road for headlights. He sees the old man approaching before LaToya does. Mr. Callahan, retired something or other, walks with a stiff limp and a sour look. He stops a few feet from the shelter, eyeing them like an unsolved problem. He does not say good morning. He never does. Instead, he mutters loud enough to hear, "Shouldn't you be in juvie or something?" Tyrell clenches his jaw but says nothing. LaToya's eyes flick to his. He shakes his head once. Let it go. The rain falls harder. Callahan steps closer, his coat pulled tight, face red from the cold. He opens his mouth, maybe for another jab, but then something shifts. He stumbles forward. One hand clutches his chest. The other flails for the shelter wall. "Hey!" LaToya shouts, stepping back. Callahan gasps, then crumples. His cane clatters to the ground, bouncing once on the wet concrete. His body follows with a dull thud. Tyrell stares, frozen for half a second. Then something clicks. He drops his backpack and rushes forward. "He's having a heart attack!" Tyrell yells. The drizzle turns into full rain. Cars drive by without slowing. The city moves on around them, unaware that a life is hanging in the balance beneath a leaky plastic shelter. Tyrell kneels in the water pooling along the sidewalk, reaching for the man's wrist. "Where are you watching from? Ever had to act in a life or death moment? Let us talk." Tyrell is 13 and already knows more about responsibility than most kids twice his age. He lives in a 2-bedroom apartment above a corner store with his mother and his younger sister, LaToya. Their space is small, the wallpaper is peeling, and the heater rattles in the winter, but it is home. The scent of fried chicken from the deli downstairs floats through their floorboards every afternoon. Sometimes it is comforting. Sometimes it makes Tyrell feel boxed in. His dad passed away when Tyrell was 9. One moment he was there, fixing the sink with a crooked grin, and the next he was gone. The funeral was quiet. Tyrell wore his best shirt and did not cry until 3 nights later, when no one was looking. Since then, He has tried to fill the silence his father left behind. He wakes early to walk LaToya to the bus stop. He makes sure she eats before school. He helps his mom fold laundry on weekends. After school, Terrell heads to the neighborhood mechanic shop, where Mr. Sanders lets him sweep the floors and tinker with old radios and rusted engines. Sometimes, Terrell gets to hold the flashlight while the older guys work. Sometimes, he just watches and learns. He has a knack for fixing things. He takes apart broken speakers, cracked phones, and busted fans, trying to understand their insides. There's a stack of old electronics in the corner of their living room that his mom jokingly calls the graveyard. In the afternoons, Terrell helps look after his younger cousins while their aunt finishes her shift. He does not complain. He reads to them, teaches them how to fold paper airplanes, and lets them mess around with his screwdriver set under supervision. It keeps them close and keeps his thoughts steady. His mom works long hours as a nurse, mostly evening shifts. She comes home with tired eyes and aching feet, but always checks on them before bed. Years ago, she taught Tyrell the basics of CPR using a rolled-up towel and an old first aid manual. Just in case, she said. He had taken it seriously, memorizing the rhythm and the steps. He hoped he would never need it. Tyrell walks a fine line every day. At school, he tries not to draw attention. He is smart, but he holds back in class sometimes, knowing too many right answers can make the wrong kind of waves. On the street, he moves with awareness, never too fast, never too slow. He sees things, notices when people watch him too long, hears the locks click when he passes certain doorways. He's tired of being invisible, but being noticed comes with risk. That is what he has learned. LaToya reminds him often, "Keep your head down. They don't want to see us rise." She says it like a joke, but there is truth packed in every syllable. Tyrell nods when she says it, but deep down, part of him wants to rise anyway. Part of him is tired of shrinking. He does not always talk about what he feels, but he writes sometimes. On the back pages of his math notebook, he sketches inventions, scribbles rhymes, and makes quiet promises to himself. One day, he will make something that matters. One day, he will fix more than just broken gadgets. One day, he will fix what people said was unfixable. Until then, he keeps showing up, steady, watching, learning, preparing for the moment when he can step forward without fear. Have you ever felt like you had to grow up faster than most? Drop your story. The rain picks up as if the sky has suddenly remembered something urgent. It splashes against the bus shelter roof in rhythmic thuds. Tyrell watches Mr. Callahan's chest rise and fall with more effort each time. The old man groans, eyes squeezed shut, then reaches for the bench beside him. His fingers barely graze the metal before his knees buckle. With a dull, wet thud, Callahan collapses onto the sidewalk. The sound makes everyone pause. Two students with backpacks step away, mouths open. A woman in a puffy coat clutches her umbrella tighter and mutters under her breath, "He's old. Let the ambulance handle it." LaToya grips Tyrell's sleeve, unsure. Tyrell does not move at first. His heart pounds. His feet feel locked. But then he sees it. The blue hue creeping into Callahan's lips. His chest is not rising anymore. His jaw is slack. Tyrell snaps into motion. "LaToya, give me the quarters," he yells. She fumbles through her pocket and hands him the coins. Tyrell sprints to the corner payphone. Rain pours down his back as he jams in the quarters. His fingers slip on the dial pad, but he hits the numbers with force. 911, what's your emergency? There's a man not breathing. He collapsed. Bus stop near 87th and Cedar, South Side. Please hurry. Is he responsive? Number He's not moving. Start chest compressions if you can. Paramedics are on the way. Terrell slams the receiver back and runs. Callahan lies twisted on the ground, his cane a foot away, his face ashen. Terrell drops to his knees in the puddle beside him. He places one hand over the other, centers them on Callahan's chest, and starts pushing hard and fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, he counts aloud. His voice is steady, louder than the rain. He remembers what his mom taught him. Straight arms, push deep, let the chest rise, keep the rhythm. A small crowd gathers but stays at a distance. No one else steps forward. Terrell does not stop. 21, 22, 23, he says, sweat mixing with rain. Callahan's shirt is soaked. His face remains still. Terrell keeps going. 31, 32. He feels his own arms burning. His knees ache from the wet concrete. But he does not pause. Behind him, Latoya watches with wide eyes, lips pressed tight. She does not look away. The sound of sirens cuts through the air, still distant, but closing in. Terrell keeps counting. 42, 43. The crowd stays quiet. Would you jump in to save someone who's hurt you? Let us discuss. Each second stretches longer than the last. Time slows in the space between chest compressions. The rain pours harder, beating against the pavement and echoing in the shelter like static. Tyrell's arms are shaking. His elbows feel like they might give out. But he keeps pushing, keeps counting. 49, 50, 51. His breaths come ragged. The cold water has soaked through his jeans, and the concrete bites at his knees. Still, he does not stop. Latoya stands beside him, holding her jacket over his head. It is not much protection, but it is all she can offer. Her lip trembles, but she does not cry. "Come on, Ty," she whispers. "Keep going." The people nearby are silent. The woman who earlier muttered steps forward slightly, eyes wide now. Another teen records quietly from the edge of the shelter, unsure what else to do. Tyrell keeps going. His voice is hoarse. 72, 73. Then, faint at first, a siren cuts through the rain. It grows louder, sharper. A rush of blue light flickers against the wet glass walls of the shelter. Tires screech against the slick street. 2 paramedics jump from the back of the ambulance. One kneels beside Terrell and gently moves him back. "You did great. We've got him now." Terrell stumbles a step away, soaked to the bone. His arms hang limp at his sides. Latoya grabs his hand and holds on tight. The medics work quickly. Oxygen, chest pads, questions between each other. They lift Callahan onto a stretcher. One of them looks over and gives Terrell a nod. "You might have saved his life, kid." Terrell just nods, breathing hard. He watches as they wheel Callahan toward the ambulance. The old man stirs, his eyes barely open. He looks dazed, confused. Then he focuses on Terrell just for a moment. His voice is faint, broken by the oxygen mask. "Why'd you help me?" Terrell shrugs. Rain drips from his hood. Someone had to. The doors close. The ambulance pulls away, its lights cutting through the curtain of rain. Terrell and Latoya stand there for a long minute. The bus finally arrives. No one boards. The driver looks at them through the window, then drives on. They sit down on the wet bench, neither speaking. Terrell's hands rest on his lap, shaking just slightly. Latoya leans her head on his shoulder. The city moves on around them, but something has shifted. Ever helped someone and got more than a thank you? Or nothing at all? Tell us. The next morning, the rain has stopped, but the sky still hangs heavy, pale and low. The streets glisten with leftover puddles, and damp leaves cling to the edges of the sidewalk. The air is thick with humidity, the kind that sticks to your skin and settles in your clothes. Terrell walks to the bus stop just like every other day. Backpack slung over one shoulder, hoodie pulled halfway up. He does not expect anything to be different. The world rarely shifts in a day. He keeps his eyes low, watching the cracks in the pavement, trying to ignore the cars that pass, and the curious looks from people who might have seen what happened yesterday. When he reaches the bus stop, LaToya is already there, seated on the far side of the bench, feet swinging. She smiles at him, but he barely notices. His eyes are fixed on something else. On the bench where Mr. Callahan had collapsed, there is a wrinkled white envelope. It looks like it has been handled more than once, its corners soft and edges curled. Terrell steps closer. His name is scribbled across the front in shaky letters. He picks it up and glances around. No one nearby, no one watching. He opens the envelope slowly, careful not to tear it. Inside is a single note, written in uneven handwriting on lined paper. "Didn't expect your kind to care. I was wrong. Thank you, Terrell." Terrell stares at the words for a long time. Below the signature, there is no name, just a small indentation from something heavier. He tips the envelope and a circular medal slips into his palm. Tarnished bronze with an eagle carved on one side and faded ribbon clinging to the top loop. It is an old war medal, heavy for its size. LaToya leans over his shoulder. "He left you his medal." Terrell nods once. LaToya reaches out and runs her finger along the edge. "That's something." "I didn't do it for that," Terrell says quietly, "but it means something." They sit on the bench in silence for a few moments, watching the buses come and go. Neither of them speaks much. The medal rests in Tyrell's hand, warm now from his grip. He tucks it into his pocket, along with the note, folds the envelope gently, and zips it into the front pouch of his backpack. The bus arrives. They board together, Terrell first, then LaToya. They take seats near the back, like always. The ride is quiet, filled only with the engine's hum and the soft murmur of morning voices. Terrell watches the city roll by. He feels something shift inside him. Not pride, not even forgiveness, just understanding. The world is not fair, but sometimes it answers. Sometimes it listens. Later that day, during lunch, Terrell pulls the medal out again. A few of his classmates gather around. One of them asks if it is real. Terrell nods and places it on the table, letting the medal catch the light. Another boy, one who usually teases him, picks it up and says, "This is cool, man." Terrell shrugs. "It belonged to someone else. He just wanted me to have it." They all go quiet for a moment, then nod. No more questions, just quiet respect. That evening, at home, Terrell places the medal on the bookshelf beside his dad's old watch. LaToya writes the note on a fresh piece of paper in her neatest handwriting and tapes it inside Terrell's closet. "Something to remember," she says. Terrell nods. He does not have the words, but she understands. Ever received an apology that was not just words? Share that moment. Weeks pass quietly. The seasons begin to shift. The rain comes less often, replaced by cooler mornings and trees with leaves the color of fire. Terrell continues his routine: school, work, helping Mama, looking after LaToya. The medal stays on the shelf beside his dad's watch, untouched but not forgotten. One morning, as Terrell approaches the bus stop, he notices something unexpected. Mr. Callahan is there. He stands a few steps away from the bench, leaning on a cane, his shoulders hunched more than before, but steady. Terrell pauses mid-step. The two make brief eye contact. Callahan gives a small nod. Terrell nods back and sits without a word. For a few days, it happens again. Callahan appears just after Tyrell and LaToya arrive. He keeps his distance, leaning on his cane, staring down the street. Then one morning, he walks slowly over and sits beside Tyrell. The bench creaks under his weight. Neither speaks at first. The city sounds fill the quiet, the groan of the bus engine, a siren in the distance, birds in the trees that line the street. Then Callahan clears his throat. "I've seen things," he says quietly, "things that shape a man the wrong way. Learned hate from the wrong people. Carried it longer than I care to admit." Tyrell stays still, eyes fixed ahead. Callahan continues. "That day, what you did, you showed me something I didn't expect." There is a long silence. Tyrell speaks without turning. "It wasn't about you, it was about life." Callahan leans back slightly, absorbing the words. He nods once. A slow, thoughtful gesture. They sit that way for a while, not talking, not needing to. LaToya watches from the far end of the bench, her expression unreadable. She does not interrupt. She just listens. She keeps her arms folded across her chest and glances from Tyrell to Callahan, her eyes flicking with curiosity, but not surprise. Maybe she saw this coming before either of them did. The morning light shifts. A breeze rustles through the leaves above them. Callahan glances at the street, then at the ground beneath his shoes. His fingers fidget with the edge of his sleeve. "I used to think that helping someone was a transaction," Callahan says. "You help those who help you, and you avoid everyone else. Safer that way." Tyrell finally looks at him. "But it isn't." Callahan meets his gaze. "Number it isn't. When the bus comes, they board like always. Tyrell goes first, then LaToya. Mr. Callahan follows, carefully climbing the steps with the help of the driver. Tyrell does not look back, but he feels the change. It is not forgiveness. It is not friendship. But it is real, and sometimes that is enough. The next morning, Callahan is already at the stop when Tyrell and LaToya arrive. He does not sit with them, but he nods again, deeper this time. Tyrell nods back. They stand in a quiet line, the three of them, waiting for the day to begin. On the ride to school, Tyrell watches the trees pass by the bus window. He thinks about how things shift, not in grand speeches or dramatic moments, just in small choices, like sitting beside someone you once feared, or admitting you were wrong, or choosing to stay. Ever seen someone grow or change because of something you did? Let us talk about it. The story of Tyrell's rescue begins to ripple far beyond the cracked pavement where it started. A passenger on the bus that morning had captured the moment on video. Tyrell, leaning over Mr. Callahan, soaked in rain, pressing steady hands against his chest. The video goes viral within days. Local news stations run headlines calling him a hero. South Side teen saves life at bus stop. At school, his name echoes through the halls. Teachers pat him on the shoulder. Students nod at him with newfound respect. Even the principal, who usually walks with a clipboard and a stern face, smiles when she sees him. A week later, the school holds an assembly. The gym is packed. The bleachers are full. Tyrell sits near the back, trying not to fidget. The assistant principal takes the stage and calls his name. He walks up slowly, hands in his pockets, eyes low. The applause is loud. His classmates cheer. LaToya claps the loudest. The principal hands him a certificate and leans into the microphone. Today, we honor a student not just for quick thinking, but for his heart, for doing what was right when no one else moved. Tyrell says thank you. That is all. He does not give a speech, but the moment feels big. That same afternoon, A nonprofit organization focused on youth medical careers reaches out. They offer Tyrell a scholarship to attend their summer medical training program. He will learn basic EMT skills, CPR certification, and get to shadow real paramedics. Mama cries when she reads the letter. Tyrell just stares at the page, unsure what to say. It feels like one door has cracked open, just enough for him to see a different kind of future. A few days later, Mr. Callahan's granddaughter emails the school office asking if they can pass a message to Tyrell. It reaches him in an envelope at the end of math class. Inside is a folded card with delicate handwriting. "My grandfather told me what you did. He said you saved his life and changed the way he thinks. He started volunteering at the Black History Museum downtown. Said he's got a lot to learn. I think you taught him more in one day than most books ever did. Thank you." Tyrell reads the card twice. He tucks it into his backpack beside the medal. Later that evening, he tells LaToya about the letter. "So, he's volunteering now?" she asks. Tyrell nods. "Yeah," said he's learning. LaToya shakes her head in disbelief. "That's wild." Tyrell shrugs. "Maybe we all got a lot to learn." They sit on the stoop as the sky fades into evening. The streetlights flicker on one by one. The sound of a television hums from a neighbor's open window. The world feels a little softer. It is not just about what Tyrell did that day. It is about what happened afterward. About how one moment reached into corners he never expected. A stranger learned to listen. A community saw a boy differently. A boy saw himself differently. He keeps the medal and the card close. Not because they prove anything, but because they remind him of the ripple. How a choice, however small, can move through people like water. Quiet, steady, and strong. Have you seen your kindness create a ripple in someone else's world? Let us celebrate that. Tyrell still waits for the bus with LaToya every morning. The routine stays the same, but something beneath the surface has shifted. The rain still comes and goes, tapping gently against the plexiglass shelter, sometimes pouring hard enough to soak the backs of their jeans. But the bench where it all happened never looks the same again. Not to Tyrell, not to LaToya, maybe not to anyone who saw what he did. The same people pass by, the same bus drivers nod, but there is a different kind of silence now, one filled not with suspicion, but with awareness. Tyrell has become a presence, not just a passenger. He stands a little taller, speaks a little more, watches the world with the eyes of someone who knows how fast everything can change. At home, life moves forward. Mama still works long hours at the clinic. LaToya still hums off-key while doing her homework. Tyrell helps with dinner and walks the neighbor's dog for extra change. His bedroom remains cluttered with old wires, broken radios, and open notebooks filled with diagrams and sketches. But next to his school books, on the highest shelf, where he keeps the things that matter most, is a small wooden box. Inside that box rests the tarnished war medal Mr. Callahan gave him. It catches the light when the sun moves through the window just right. Tyrell does not open it often. He does not need to. Its weight has already made a place in his memory. To him, the medal is not about honor or recognition. It is about proof that courage does not need permission, that the choice to act means more than who you are or where you come from. Some days are harder than others. There are still moments at school where people doubt him without reason. Still moments on the street when strangers cross to the other side. Still moments when he feels invisible, despite everything. On those days, Tyrell reaches for the envelope. The one with the card from Mr. Callahan's granddaughter. The one he folded and taped inside his closet door. He does not reread it every time. Sometimes he just touches the edge of the paper and closes his eyes. It is not about needing to be reminded he did the right thing. It is about remembering that compassion cuts through hate. Every single time. He thinks about that when it rains especially hard, when the wind pulls at his hood, and when the city feels too big. He thinks about how one moment, one decision, rippled through the lives of people he never expected to reach. He thinks about Mr. Callahan, now volunteering at the museum, about the classmates who ask him real questions now, not just about what happened, but about who he wants to be, about the kids in the hallway who look at him like they might be able to do something brave too. Terrell does not think of himself as a hero. Heroes, in his mind, wear uniforms or win trophies. He just showed up. He just acted. But maybe that is all it takes. Maybe heroism starts exactly there, with someone deciding that being ordinary is not an excuse to do nothing. Terrell waits for the bus. Rain or shine, metal or not. And while he does, he watches. Not just for danger, but for moments. Moments where action is possible. Moments where someone might need a hand. And when those moments come, he knows what to do. Because now, he believes in change. He believes in people. And most of all, he believes that hearts can shift, just like skies, just like seasons. Share this story if you believe hearts can change, and heroes come in all sizes. Location: Edge of Detroit, 6:17 a.m. He thought they were just abandoned kids. 3 tiny lives bundled in white cloth, crying alone in the cold. A poor boy with no home of his own knelt beside them, shielding them from danger in a world that had already forgotten him. But the next morning, a silver Rolls-Royce glided up to his crumbling apartment building, and everything changed. What no one knew, those weren't just any babies. They were the heirs of one of the wealthiest men in America. Stay to the end, you won't believe how this young hero's life was transformed. It is the crack of dawn in a forgotten alley behind the rail station. The wind bites at exposed skin. Trash rustles against rusted walls and cracked pavement. A boy named Malik, just 13 years old, crouches low, barely shielded by his thin hoodie. His sneakers are soaked from the night's rain, and the chill cuts to the bone. Yet his arms are wrapped tightly around something warmer than the cold could ever be. 3 newborns, swaddled in white cloth, fragile and still. He whispers, "You are okay now. I got you." His voice trembles, but his hands do not. They are steady, protective, and determined. As he breathes out, his breath fogs in the early morning air. Behind him, the first light of day spills slowly into the alleyway, brushing against rooftops and silent bricks. The city sleeps on, unaware of the moment unfolding in its shadows. No one sees the boy in the alley. No one but the babies. Minutes earlier, Malik had followed a faint sound through the darkness, thinking it might be kittens. A thin, high cry kept pulling him toward the dumpsters. He had hesitated. The streets were not safe. But curiosity and something deeper pushed him forward. When he pulled back a damp cardboard box, what he found was not fur, but flesh. Pink faces, tiny fist, eyes tightly shut against the world. They were so small they could fit in the curve of his arms. 3 lives abandoned in the dark. His chest tightened. He had seen things in his 13 years, but this was something else. He looked around, but the alley was empty. No cameras, no footsteps, only the wind. He should have run for help. Maybe he still could. But his legs did not move. Instead, he scooped them up. They were cold. One whimpered. The smallest had stopped crying altogether. That was when fear shifted to action. He pressed them to his chest, trying to share what little warmth he had. The hoodie was useless against the morning cold, but he pulled it tighter around them anyway. He spoke softly. Words did not matter as much as tone. Reassurance, presence, hope. The sky began to pale. A distant train horn blew, and for a moment it felt like the world was coming back to life. Malik sat there with the newborns in his arms, trying to decide what to do next. He knew what adults would say: call someone, get help, wait for the police. But what if no one came in time? What if they were taken and separated? What if they ended up like so many others, lost in a system too big to care? So he sat with them, watched their little chests rise and fall, felt the soft weight of responsibility settle into his bones. He was only 13, but at that moment he felt much older.